Okay, so I hope the sound is good on this. I'm recording it on a different device because everything died and I forgot to charge it, so hopefully the sound clarity is good. But this week is all about honoring our students' gifts. Now, chances are if you were in public education, you realize at a very young age that certain subject areas had greater importance because that's what we put emphasis on and that's what we make sure that you always have access to. Now, at one time when Common Core came about, prior to that, we had all these different subject areas. We had all these different trade programs in our bigger schools. We had multiple art teachers when I was graduating in the school district that I was. We had 4 art teachers when I went back 5 years later to do my student teaching. We only had 1 full-time art teacher. That was in a change of 4 to 5 years when we had this idea that every student was going to go to college and these subjects had the most importance. And that was something that resonated for a very long time before that, right? But that was like a first push where we saw that really drastically changing our school environment. Now, if you were somebody who struggled with reading or writing or wasn't the best at it, and that was the only thing that actually had emphasis of importance within schools, that really impacted your perspective of yourself and your intellectual capabilities. Now, with me being really good at art, that was never really valued within a school setting. Even if I was, in kindergarten, I could draw something realistic, 3-dimensional on a 2-dimensional surface, was able to create depth and accuracy. That is all very intelligent, especially if you're able to do that at a very young age, but at the same time, never being acknowledged as being smart because you could do that because you're not that good at these other subject areas, impacted like my perspective of myself and what I was capable of doing and whether or not I was going to go to college or what I'd become when I was at college. Now, if this was something that we actually valued within our school setting, someone who wasn't able to draw something very accurately at all, like there'd be like spatial awareness, you might have an IEP, if we had any degree of value in being able to do that. And what we're talking about is the ability to see and to see critically, where you're defining all these small different characteristics that most people can't acknowledge, right? Or aren't able to either see at all or reconstruct to a degree of accuracy. That has value. That's important, but we don't value that along with a lot of our trades that we had at one time within our school setting. That helps our students, especially students impacted socioeconomically, to know like, hey, I really like this, I'm gonna go into this field. And at one time we had electrician programs, we had HVAC, we had welding, we had all these great small motor repair in our high schools. And after Common Core, access to those programs, if they even existed after that, those trade programs were like non-existent, right? And then 10 years later, 15 years later, we have this huge shortage in all these trade skills that we need that have huge value in developing our infrastructure in America. So these things need to exist within our school. And when you do so, you're actually honoring your students' intelligence, what they want to do, what they want to pursue. And if they don't have that exposure, chances are they have no idea what they want to go into. Then you feel almost lost. Now, if you look at different cultures that educational system was on understanding a child, supporting their natural growth, and then becoming that role within a society, like what we see with a lot of indigenous, historically traditional practices of teaching and learning, there wasn't this reconstruction of a child to become something that we view in society as elders as being important. Of course, that is significant and that does have value, but when you know what a student or a child, what they're naturally good at, what they're gravitating towards, you don't try to fundamentally change them into something that they're not, or to have them value something that they don't. When they have this other value that also produces a need or also has a need within society, like if we as a culture viewed art as important and more students then went into art, it wouldn't be this common saying of, what are you going to do with that, or good luck getting a job with that. You end up creating a market because it has value, and now you have this new industry if you don't smash it, right? Or even like honoring our gifts as teachers. Now, when I was in education and I was still teaching art at a high school level, it became more about English and math and what I was doing for English and math, and basically almost became where I was teaching English and math through visuals, through art. And that's not why I became an art teacher. Art has value in and of itself. It is a reflection of culture. It is the ability to see things critically, to infer. It has all these great properties that help strengthen students' academic performance in all these other subject areas. And if you honored it equal within the education system, no different than anything else, then it's going to have math, it's going to have English because it's supported. But when you try to fundamentally take something, whether it be a subject or an individual, and create it into something else, you take away the passion, the desire that actually makes that teacher, that student actively engaged in learning, and through whatever they have most interest in, they become highly intelligent within that subject area. They read, they write, they consume more information as long as they're allowed to, as long as they know like that has value, you know? Like you could become an amazing fisherman, whatever you want to call that, you know? And, you know, I don't know if, you know, within an education setting, how much we view value in that, but chances are if that is supported, that person will become an amazing fisherman, you know? And they'll be reading, they'll be writing, they'll doing all those different things, and they'll understand like the ecosystem and what fish are doing at what time of day and their feeding habits and all this other stuff. So it opens up this can of worms, no pun intended, of creating depth, creating intellectual capabilities within that subject area, you know, and that's important, right? And that's what we're trying to do. So these boxes that we create, you know, I've already talked about this in another video, but it's almost impossible to not see these boxes. And when we try to increase rigor within subject areas, we realize that it's almost impossible to keep it in the box, right? Like they include all the other subject areas for the most part. So what do we do to like retain that thought without our brains exploding because we just like redefined everything we created? Is we create another box, we call it STEM. And STEM is a reflection of the 4 subjects that we probably deem as the most important, right? Opposed to calling it everything and creating a space that allows us to engage in a subject area within the area that resonates most with us, and whether it be music, art, math, reading, science, whatever, and really engage in that on a deeper level where we can navigate the content in the space that resonates most with our gifts as a student, as a person, or as an educator. And when you don't do that, when you have that misalignment, you know, it causes teachers like me to stop teaching because you took away the passion. And what I loved about what I did is my subject area for what it actually is, not trying to make it something that it is not, you know, or trying to redefine it and make it something different. So basically the overall arching point of this is looking at subjects in a different way where it honors a student's gifts, understanding what they naturally gravitate towards, and creating those opportunities within academic spaces, because that will allow them then to pursue that as they get older, because they'll know that they actually like it because they had exposure. Education should be an experience of having a bunch of resources and a bunch of experiences within a school setting, and then helping through that help the child understand what they want to actually navigate in terms of what they like, right? Opposed to tying value to capitalism, to what we view they need to be. And that's gonna bring the best result, not only for academic success, but also behavior, you know, and graduation rates and outcomes. So redefining your space is almost impossible within the current structure, right? But if you're an elementary teacher and you have a subject area that you want students to study, and then aligning with all these different ways in which they can navigate that subject area. If you look at Howard Gardner's multiple intelligence theories, that's a great idea, right? But if we also got off like the controlling point of education of everybody needs to learn the same exact thing, which is rooted in our education system, and allowed students to learn about that based off of what they wanted. We can create paths based off all these multiple intelligence theories, all these theories of cognitive learning, and they can process that through their lens, share it with one another, and through that act of sharing and having value, you can stand up in front of students that are viewed as very smart because they're an English or a math student, and still feel like an equal as a student, that I have equal value to everybody else in the overarching understanding of what we are studying, opposed to like you're good at art, so you're gonna make our posters, right? Or it's Halloween, so we're gonna throw that up and we'll have Derek paint the pumpkins on it, you know? Like that's a gimmick and a joke, right? You know, like it's okay. It's okay to be able to do that and stuff, but like tying it to a standard, tying it to intelligence opposed to, you know, hey, art teacher, you know how to paint. We need new squares out on the playground, you know, things like that is still how we see it, whether or not you're a student or faculty, a teacher at a school. So think about that in terms of how you design your curriculum going forward, to think about ways in which still honors our children's gifts.